Hello, lovely homework people, and welcome to a very short video on unit fractions. One part of our curriculum is all about understanding what a unit fraction is and whether or not you can order it and apply it into questions. So let me scroll and zoom in on this lovely poster here. A unit fraction, specifically speaking, is where a fraction occurs with the numerator, the top number, as a 1. So you can clearly see in all of these fractions, the numerator, the top number, is 1. And the denominator has different numbers, but clearly the top number is always 1. So a unit fraction, specifically speaking, has a numerator of 1. So hopefully that makes perfect sense so far. And you can see in these images, all of these fractions are unit fractions. There's a half, 1, 2, 3, 4. There's a quarter shaded. And over here, there's 1/4 shaded as well. They're all unit fractions. When it comes to unit fractions, your job is to understand how they look on a circle or a square if they are broken down. All right? So let's have a quick look at a half of a square, for example. If you've got a half here, so here's my lovely square. And what I'm going to ask you to do is shade a half, all right? So that makes perfect sense. We're going to scroll it in half, and obviously it's not a straight line, but a half. And there's a unit fraction 1/2. Now, I'm also going to ask you to go for a unit fraction of a third. And I'm going to do another square. Let's do that here. Square it up. See if I can find a nice sort of... Oh, it's almost a rectangle, that one. Let me see if I can grab a little bit more of it. There it is. And I'm going to ask you to draw a third of this. Now, this is where it gets interesting. Now, a third is still a unit fraction, and I'm shading a third. The question that might occur is which unit fraction is bigger? I'm going to ask you which of these unit fractions is bigger. Is it a half or is it a third? Well, you can clearly see that shaded in, 1/2 is bigger than 1/3. So if I was going to order these, I'd put a third first, then I'd put a half. When the denominator is bigger, it actually means that the portion of a whole, object or a portion of a whole number is actually split a lot more ways. So I just want to show you these fractions just here. So you can see there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 fractions. And all I'm going to ask us to do is think about what order they go in. What order they go from smallest to largest. So have a think for a second. Okay, let's scroll out and see if we can put this over here. When it comes to our fractions, I'm going to show you which one is the smallest and which one is the biggest, and hopefully that makes sense for you as well. All right, there's my first square. Now, the first fraction we're going to do is 1/16. Now, 1/16 is going to be a square split into 16 equal parts. And obviously this is not extremely equal, but it's close enough. And I'm going to shade in one of those to create the fraction, the unit fraction, 1/16. Remember, a unit fraction has a 1 as the numerator. So 1/16 looks like that. Now, all I want to do now is see whether or not I can draw another square and shade in 1/6. So let me just make a nice square about the same size. And let's see how 1/6 looks. Can you predict how big 1/6 is? Now, of course, that's not completely accurate as well, but clearly when I shade in one part out of the 6, it's actually a lot bigger than 1/16. And that's because it's not split into lots and lots of parts. So in actual fact, the smaller the denominator, the bigger the fraction is. So for example, a half, if we go all the way, can you predict if a half is bigger than a 1/6? Obviously, this is a 1/6. This is a 16th. Can you predict if a half, 1/2, is bigger than 1/6? Let's have a look. There we go, 1/2. Look at that, it's huge. Because it's only split into 2 parts, it's actually a bigger fraction. So if I was going to order these, I'd put 1/16, then I'd put a sixth, then I'd put a half. All right? Reminder, a unit fraction, specifically speaking, is any fraction with a numerator, the top number of 1, and the bigger the number at the bottom, the bigger the denominator, the smaller the fraction. Look at these. 1/2 is bigger than a quarter, and a quarter is bigger than an eighth, and an eighth is much bigger than a 16th. The bigger the number at the bottom, the smaller the fraction is. Have a go at the questions next door. Good luck for the answers, and we'll see how you go.